Hey, Matt Scratch here, and today I'm going to be showing you the finer points of my 1988 Nissan Pulsar NX. Starting with a cold start. And the car hasn't ran since I bought it, since the day I brought it home, and that was, I think 3 months ago. And the car has a bad transmission leak, but I topped up the transmission fluids, and I checked the oil, it's all good. This engine doesn't run that good, and I have never done a cold start after this long. I've only owned the car about 3 months, so we'll see. Wow, there she goes, just like that. Good old Nissan. So I'm gonna bring it around the front of my shop and clean up the interior here a bit, and then I'll get it to a more scenic location and show you around it a bit. The story on the Pulsar is I love these Pulsars, and I had a 1990 model that I impulse bought off a friend, and I just really fell in love with both the looks and the way it drives and everything. And so I started. That car didn't last very long. It was extremely rusty, and when I got it, in fact, the rear sway bar on this side was broken, and the wheel was just flopping around, and it's like an obsolete part. So I actually welded it up and drove the car for a while, and then it developed a terrible oil leak, and I didn't think it was worth fixing at the time, and then I instantly regretted it when I sold it. So I started looking for a clean one. I came across the ad for this one, and it kind of looked like a car in the pictures that had just been really nice but just faded out, and I was even thinking that maybe I could just polish it up, and you know, the pictures in the ad were a little bit fuzzy, and the car was 5 hours away. So I kind of took a gamble on it. I talked to the seller on the phone quite a bit, and he seemed like a extremely nice guy, and he sent me more pictures right away on request, and they were a bit clearer, and he told me that the car had a gas leak, but he was going to try and fix it before I got there to pick it up, and otherwise the car was good to drive home. So I really had high confidence in him at that point, and he did later phone me and say he had fixed the fuel leak. He neglected to mention the car had a terrible transmission leak, and numerous other little details he forgot to mention, and I found out later those pictures he sent me were older pictures of the car. He did own the car for quite a while. Anyways, we had agreed on a price of $1,600 on the phone. He had been asking $2,200 in the ad, and that's part of what made me believe that the car was even nicer than it is. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with it, but for $2,200 it's not quite that nice, and $1,600 I felt pretty comfortable at that price with the pictures and the information I was given. So I sent him half the money up front, like sight unseen, because the car was so far away, and that probably was a bit of a mistake, but we figured it'd be a nice family drive, and we drove up there, and with the other $800 in cash ready to give to him. And when we got there, the seller was not the same guy that I talked to on the phone at all. He turned into a complete jerk, and he was rushing me over the car, and he wanted his money right away, and he had a really rough looking buddy with him that was I guess there to intimidate me into paying the rest of the money. You know, the fact that it had almost double the mileage that he had told me on the phone, and a few other little details like that, and then the leak in the transmission, and the headlights didn't work when I went to leave the place. It was already kind of dusky when I was leaving there, and I felt I needed headlights, so I go to turn them on and they wouldn't pop up. I ended up having to pry one up, and then the car broke down about 20 minutes later because the battery he had included in it was garbage, and as soon as I did get one headlight working, it just killed the battery to the point where the car wouldn't run. So we had the car towed to our motel, and needless to say I was a little bummed out, having just spent we ended up agreeing on $14.50 in the end after I argued with him for a while. So I did get $150 off the $1,600 we had initially agreed on. That was a small bonus, but I had to right away invest that the next day in a battery and stuff. So, you know, I was a little bummed out, to say the least, when we went back to the hotel and had the car towed back there. But, you know, the next morning we went out and had another look at it, and we topped up all the fluids and got a battery in it and set out on our way. And there is a short video on the channel, just a 30-second video of me driving this car on the highway, and that's from the trip home. And it made it about halfway home. Used up several jugs of automatic transmission fluid to keep it going because it was leaking so bad, and ultimately I was concerned that it might start a fire because some of it was leaking onto the exhaust. So when we got within range that our AMA coverage would cover a tow, we went with that. We got it towed, and the cool part about that was the guy that came to tow it was actually a big fan of the car. He had owned one himself, and so I knew right away that the car was anyone who's driven one of these cars loves it, because they have a very good feel to them when you're driving them. They really feel like you're driving a little go-kart, and yet they don't feel like they're a crappy little car either. They're actually really solidly built, and they feel like it when you're driving it. They feel like a solid little car, and they zip around corners, and they're not terribly quick. They do 0 to 60 in about 9.5 seconds. It's only got 95 horsepower, but really grippy on the corners. These work really well for daily use. We used one daily before. There's lots of room in the back there. They even have a little back seat in them, and Nash has ridden in the back of our other one many times. You can see it's mainly just for kids, but it does have a back seat. I really love the interior, the driver's position, everything. It's like a little sports car. I mean, it is a little sports car, but it really makes you feel like you're almost driving a Ferrari or something when you're sitting in this car. You sit low down, and it's got a very sporty cockpit sort of feel to it. So Nissan actually did design this car for the European market mostly, and it was sold as a Nissan Exa in Europe, and of course it was right-hand drive. If you actually look on the firewall, there's a plug where the steering column would go for the right-hand drive application. So it's got that European sort of look to it, and I really love that. You know, it kind of looks like an old Lamborghini on the back almost. They did have a second option for the back of these cars. They had what they called a sport back, which was a different sort of hatch that basically made it like a station wagon. And so that was like a factory option when it was new. Some people even got both hatches, but those sport back hatches are actually the more popular choice for enthusiasts now, and they're worth more money, but I don't care. I really like the look of the hatch. And these cars were actually designed so that you could drive them with both the T-tops and the hatch off, and so it was just this bar here, and the wind blew right through. I've never tried driving one like that. I have driven this one on the highway with just the T-tops out, and it was an awesome experience. The car is actually really comfortable to drive and ride in. It rides really smooth. It's got four-wheel independent suspension, and the seats, as you can see, are very supportive. Nice big bolsters on the sides there, and they're very comfortable actually. There's a few goofy things, like I can't get the hatch opening on it. The lock's jammed, and the stereo's all pulled out, the dash is all pulled apart. But actually overall the interior's in pretty good shape. I do have the parts car, which has a better dash pad in it, so I'll be swapping that. The T-tops don't leak, so I mean that's an awesome bonus. And the windshield's in great shape. And as I said, it's got, you know, brand new tires on it. And the engine does seem solid, and 208,000 kilometers. That's still pretty low for 1988. So there's 1.6 liters of Fury, and it's connected to a 3-speed automatic transmission. As you can see, things are quite serviceable under here. That's another thing I like about these cars. They're quite easy to work on, and things are in pretty good shape on this one. Nothing's bent up or rusted out up here. It's just some bad wiring I have to deal with, so I'm okay with that. Unfortunately, the hood needs some help. I do have a hood on the parts car as well, and it's in slightly better shape, but not a whole lot. It needs a lot of work too, so got my work cut out for me on that one. That was another real blessing. When I bought my parts car, I got a really good deal on it. I can't even remember. I think I paid $175 for the parts car, and it has about $1,000 worth of new parts on it, and I've already sold $150 worth of parts off it. So I'm actually only into it for $25, so I really appreciate it. The seller who sold me that one, he wanted to see it go to a good home, and I promised it would. So altogether, you know, with the two cars, I'm only actually into them for $1,500, so I'm pretty happy with that. And the plan with this one is my wife is actually really into these cars too, and she would like to drive this car, so I'm going to paint it powder pink. I've got a nice Mercedes color picked out, and then the hatch is going to be gray, and I'm putting the aluminum wheels off the parts car on it, and they'll be painted in like a medium gray as well. So I think that's going to look pretty cool. I'm excited about this project, so stay tuned for updates on it. I'm not exactly sure what it is about this era of Japanese vehicle, but I just feel right at home in this interior. I guess it's just how basic it is. I think cars have gotten really overcomplicated nowadays, and I just wish you could go back to buying a simplistic little car like this that you can just get in and bomb around town in, and it's got everything you need and nothing you don't. No big ugly screen in the middle there. It's just got the bare essentials, and oddly it does have power mirrors. I've been a little surprised that these cars had power mirrors. And another cool feature is this vent like that flips out. And that's part of the bonus with this particular car, is everything's complete inside, and these interiors often get broken up on these cars for whatever reason, and it can be very hard to find the bits for them. I do have the parts car, and I have all the missing pieces here. That's how it was when I picked it up, but I have everything, even a CD player that came with it. So I'm going to put that back together here one day. It's actually got 209,000 kilometers on it, I guess now. I did drive it about 250 or 300 on the way home. I'm going to take you for a quick drive just around the property here. The car has no plate or insurance on it, so I can't take it out on the highway, but there is actually a video of me driving this car on the highway when I brought it home, so I'll put a link for that in the description, and you can check that out. Kind of bumpy through here. So much fun to drive. I love this car. There's the parts car. The parts car has all new suspension and steering and all sorts of new parts on it, so that's nice.
I got it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Eh.
Normally Nash does that for me. He's going to be out here pretty quick. Thank you. Thanks for watching Matt's Garage. Don't forget to like and subscribe.